Super. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Krasi. Wada is with me. She doesn't need introduction. And this time, for first time, she's my guest. Usually, I'm her guest. Wada, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be talking about Rudolf Steiner because Wada is very well familiar with his great knowledge. And Rudolf Steiner is really very, very such valuable person, knowledge. Wada, I wanted us to start with his, first of all, maybe some introductions for people who do not know who Rudolf Steiner is, please make for us. And secondly, please tell us how he describes these difficult times, interesting, let's not say difficult, interesting times that we live in. Thank you, Wada, for accepting my invitation.
Thank you, Krasi, for this amazing topic and interview, because actually my interest in astrology started simultaneously and parallel when I started studying anthroposophy. This is the science and knowledge that Rudolf Steiner gave to the world. And if it wasn't for that, I would probably not even be doing astrology. Because he brought back the knowledge of this science, the first science. Again, he talked about astrology as one of the not one, but the first sciences ever in the world that will be restored. But Rudolf Steiner is basically the greatest initiate of our time. Initiate is someone who has consciously opened and their psychic abilities, their third eye, whatever you want to call it. He could, by will, by special exercises, and it wasn't mediumistic, like someone who just gets impressions here and there, can't switch it on and off. It was through conscious program, training, how to enter the higher worlds and the lower worlds with your consciousness, without any substances, without any rituals, while still in the body, without travel astral, just with the consciousness. So that's the future of all humans, or the majority of humans, at least at the current wave. And he is one of the highest initiate, and actually there was hints in his work that he is the incarnation of Pythagoras. I think it was Pythagoras, yes. So he's been here many times before, teaching us as a high initiate. And his teaching was mostly at the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century. And he gave to humanity spiritual science, because he said till now religions were given to humans more like mythology, like stories, because humans have not developed logical scientific thought enough to understand that. And he said time has come now, the high hierarchies are given dispensation where people should understand their religions, and especially Christianity, because he was a Western philosopher, as you know, he wanted to explain the Western mysteries. And because we kind of were turning towards the East, and a lot of Westerners are still turning that the Western world doesn't have spiritual traditions, but actually the newest wave, the deepest spiritual teachings were given less than 100 years ago by Rudolf Steiner. And they are using a little bit different language, but describing the same things as the ancient Vedas, as the ancient Zoroaster religions, and the Egyptian religions. Each one has a different dictionary and vocabulary, but all roads lead to Rome. And when he became high-level initiate, he was not Christian, he didn't believe in Christ. He was, he could, explore the higher worlds, but he started a methodical study of the history of the world. He could see it, he could see exactly what's happened, but not just the external events, the internal meanings, the invisible forces behind it. He could, he says that the wind is not just wind, the entities behind every natural phenomenon, every natural law, like gravity or whatever. There is actual entities with consciousness that are almost like those forces, natural forces, are as an extension of their spiritual body. And he started researching, and he was amazed himself that the Christ and Jesus Christ was an actual figure, historical, but not just one of the teachers, like a lot of Eastern cultures, a lot of very new age people and knowledge, which is very Luciferic in nature, actually, the New Age, is trying to teach us that, oh, Jesus was just one of the teachers, like other teachers, you know, a bit more evolved than us. But actually, Rudolf Steiner, when he did this high initiate investigation, he realized that, yes, Jesus was from the human evolution, Jesus the human. Jesus was a previous incarnation of, his astral body was from Buddha, of Jesus. So even Buddha is part of the Christ principle. His soul itself was before Zoroaster, one of the biggest, Zarathustra, Zoroaster, one of the biggest teachers of 6,000 years ago during the Zoroastrian, the first Zoroastrian religion. He was a very high initiate, one of the highest initiate, but Christ is different than Jesus. At the age of 30, Rudolf Steiner saw clairvoyantly on the Jordan River, the soul of Jesus, the spirit of Jesus, the human, leaves and instead enters the spirit of Christ. And Christ is not a human being. Christ has never had an incarnation as humanity. It's not of the human evolutionary stream. It's a way much more higher developed being that was of the wave that created humanity. Christ is exactly one step below the creator, like he saw it. You know, it's the same as the creator. It's a different aspect of the creator.
And this happened when during the baptizing in the river.
Yes, at the 30th year of Jesus, his soul, his spirit leaves, consciously sacrifices, and Christ comes and walks on earth inside the physical body of Jesus that was prepared for thousands of years. Even in the Bible, we know it was prepared from generations and generations. And that because it had to be a body with very high vibration, with a spirit that till the 30th year of very high vibration, the teacher Jesus, he is actually a teacher, human evolution, but much higher than all of us. And then Christ enters, and Christ, spirit, had to lower himself, like Rudolf Steiner and Bean Saduna also say, 75 million times to compress the vibration, not to destroy that body. And it took thousands of years for this gradual compression. And actually, the previous religions of the Egyptians, of the Persians, all previous high initiates, they expected the coming of the solar being. In ancient Greece, it was called Apollo. In Dionysius, in ancient Egyptian culture, it was called Osiris. In ancient Persian culture, the spirit of the Christ, which is also the spirit of the sun, is the soul of the solar system, the creator, basically, of the sun, and consequently the solar system, because all the solar system is created from the sun. In ancient Persia, it was known as the Hurumasta, the spirit of the sun, or the Christ spirit. In ancient India, it was known as Vishvakarman, as the Christ, the spirit of the sun. So every single incredible spiritual, because each spiritual religion or teaching is a dispensation for the time itself, for the age and the era. It's just the names and the terms are a bit different.
Yes.
But it's the same thing. So they expected, they talked about that. And even Rudolf Steiner says a few hundred years before the coming of Christ, when they would enter the high initiate into the higher worlds, they couldn't see Christ. And because Christ was not anymore in the higher worlds, the Christ was coming closer and closer to the earth. So they couldn't find him up there, but he was closer into the lower spheres, like etheric or whatever. And they said, he's coming. There will be the birth. And even the prophets said, there is a Messiah, the Savior is coming, you know. They could see it's like this mighty being that's going to be incarnated, that's going to, for 3 years, walk the earth. And those 3 years life of Christ in the body of Jesus, from the mystery of the incarnation there, till the mystery of Golgotha, was like a type of a sacred ritual almost. Every single act that is in the Bible, we know every single word that was said every single day corresponds to a cosmic process and to the development of humanity. And actually, you can even progress those 3 years and see through astrological means how they project from those events of the starting of the making of miracles. Like in the first miracle was in the wedding when he turned the water into wine and so on. For 3 years, he did those miracles, as we call them, the spirit. And each one corresponds to a different event in the history of humanity. You can progress it with very long progressions astrologically. And funny enough, it's some astrologers did the test, and actually those years that started from 2020 correspond for the years of life
conjunction, maybe.
Yes, from there it corresponds when it's progressed from the life. Philippov talked about that, when it's progressed from the birth of from this specific moment to humanity. This is when the devil came and tested Christ and said, I'll give you the whole world. These are the 40 days in the desert of testing or whatever. And so this is a testing of humanity that is corresponding to. So the whole life of Jesus was like a ritual, like a sacrifice, because they say as above, so below. Actually, they could see the coming of this being from the stars. And so what I'm trying to say is Rudolf Steiner said, wow, this is not just some teacher. This was actually the most important event that ever happened in the history of humanity. And he said that till then, for millions of years, and Peter Dunov says it, Master Bean Sudunu, that for 18 million years, the human soul was entering the physicality. First, there was like something like semi-animal on earth, and the soul was above. And it took millions of years for the soul to start entering when the bodies were perfected enough, the soul to merge with the physicality, the higher principles, and the people received their eye or consciousness only from the middle of the Lemurian age and their physicality fully, and so on. So he gives this whole history of humanity going back millions of years. But till 2000 years ago, it was involution, spirit entering the physical. That's why the laws till 2000 years ago, that's why the religions were very different. That's why they were more conservative about preserving, because it was like descent from higher state into lower state for very long periods, for thousands, millions, hundreds, thousands of years. And the coming of Christ, that's when the moment Christ dies on the cross, or the physical body of Jesus Christ, the spirit of Christ, which is part of the spirit of the Son, and the Son is part of the spirit of the God, basically the creator, the central spiritual Son Alfiola. It's another aspect of that. So suddenly the earth aura gets permeated by the aura of Christ. And Rudolf Steiner says that from that moment on, basically the spirit of the earth is the Christ spirit. And the Christ spirit is not a masculine principle. It contains both feminine and, masculine energies. And it's not just like, oh, now the earth has a masculine soul or whatever. No, it's both. So the ultimate goal is that the earth one day will become like the sun. In 1,000,000 years, I don't know how long, but the impulse was seeded now. And this upwards evolution started 2000 years ago. And that's from now on, the soul starts working on the body, but making it less and less physical and dense. It's not going to be the purpose of the soul to leave the body and not incarnate anymore. No, that's escaping the earth. And Rudolf Steiner is making a big note. He says a lot of Eastern religions, they were wanting, to enter some state of nirvana and never incarnate. He says the true purpose of souls are to keep coming, but refine the matter, refine the body, turn it into the kingdom of heaven on earth, to make it a kind of a paradise here, and to etherize, make the whole earth, like what New Age calls earth is entering the fifth dimension. It's not going to happen. They say, from tomorrow, suddenly we enter the fifth dimension. And Rudolf Steiner says, no, it takes such a long period. The earth became it used to be astral and etheric, but it took quite a few million years to become physical. Humans only became physical from the middle of the Lemurian age, a few million years ago. Before that, the true spirit was, it was still building the body from outside and working on it. And now we'll work on those bodies to refine them more and more. And it's not going to be, it's going to be incarnation after incarnation after incarnation. Rudolf Steiner said Christianity, it shouldn't be called Christianity, but it's the biggest, most important event in the history of humanity. From now on, for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, it's upward evolution. And of course, he said that this Christian impulse that happened, this mystery, is not going to be fully understood until the age of the lion, because that's the Christ principle, the Leo principle of creation, the heart principle. And that's in about 10,000 years. We just entered.
Exactly, I was trying to count. You can't count so many.
We just entering the age of Aquarius. So
this was my question, Wada. How things would change because we are just at the gates, 300 something years, and then we're entering astronomically. I mean,
years, yeah.
Yes, well, then we're entering Aquarius.
It's the dawn already. We're feeling the Aquarian energy.
We do.
We started with the
Antichrist energies a lot.
That's what Rudolf Steiner says. And he says it's not twofold, darkness and light. Actually, it's different. Christ is in the middle, like the heart. And then there is two antagonistic forces on both sides of Christ. One is Luciferic energy, the other one is Ahrimanic. And the Luciferic energy can, I would say, correspond to the lower chakra somehow, but in a negative way. Christ would correspond, because Lucifer creates all the passions, the desires, whether it's getting euphoric, getting high, getting sexually crazed up, wanting to escape reality, all new age stuff. They're Luciferian inspired, and they're groups that work for the coming of Luciferic knowledge. But in a sense, those beings are not negative. But when taken to an extreme, Lucifer can do a lot of damage. But Lucifer, for example, incarnated 5,000 years ago on Earth, just like Christ did 2,000. And Lucifer brought the sciences, the arts, the more evolved higher arts, this inspiration of the arts. But taken to an extreme can do a lot of damage. Then in the middle, the heart chakra is Christ. And then there is the Ahrimanic principle that mostly works in the nervous system, the brain and the head. And when taken to, it's great because Ahriman brings the principle of science, of rationality, the enlightenment, what we call understanding the external, understanding the material, systemizing, organizing numbers, all of this. But Ahriman, taken to an extreme, brings extreme materialism, disconnection from the heart, just everything is from the mind, a bit like a robot, automated, not feeling, heartless. And currently the times are very Ahrimanic, because Ahriman is supposed to incarnate. So first was Lucifer incarnated, then this being, the highest being Christ in the middle, like the heart chakra. And now, Rudolf Steiner said that at the beginning of the third millennium, at the very beginning, we're at the beginning of the third millennium, the incarnation of Ahriman will happen, of this third principle. And he said, whether we want it or no, it's going to happen. What the result will be depends on humans. How many of them are aware enough to recognize and not to get misled? Because Ahriman is the prince of lies, call him, or we also know him like Satan. And it's not going to be like Satan comes here from the sky. He's going to, Rudolf Steiner and beings that do know the greatest seers about times, they say he's going to come in a very esteemed family. He's going to have mentors. He's going to be very bright, intelligent, charismatic person. And again, for 3 years, there'll be this incarnation mimicking, because Ahriman is the antagonism of Christ. Again, for 3 years, there will be this being that enters, like very powerfully, this Ahrimanic entity into the.
How astrologically this will look like, Wada? What are the astrological aspects that we have to look for? This is interesting.
Well, Rudolf Steiner doesn't say, but I started researching. Ahriman, according to anthroposophy, works in the nervous system. What rules the nervous system? Aquarius. And
Right.
Rudolf Steiner said for Ahriman to incarnate, first the conditions have to be right. The whole earth, he says, has to be covered in something like an electric grid. He said this 100 years ago. He said machines will be smarter than the human brain. And all machines will be connected to one brain. There was no computers back then. He says all machines will be connected in one brain, and Ahrimanic forces will work through those. They can take over like entities, sometimes to work. So we have to be a bit careful with that. And he says, but it doesn't mean deny science, deny technological advancement. He said it's part of the path of the evolution. It's good for us, just like being introduced by Lucifer to the arts and so on was good for us. But if we just go in that direction, which is also called transhumanism, he says that's like the death of the soul. That's the soul the body becomes too materialistic, and the soul will not be able, the spirit, to enter anymore. And humans become like automatons or robots, total disconnection from soul, not feeling any joy, not feeling any inspiration, intuition. You're like drugged on antidepressants constantly, type of a dimmed, or kind of as if you're drunk, or kind of anhedonia, dimmed consciousness, maybe very bright, but no connection to the heart.
No.
So Aquarius, but I'm not saying Aquarius is negative, but
No.
It's exactly describes to me the Ahrimanic principle. If it works through the nerve.
Is this related to the Babylonian Enki? Because we know Enki is the waterman, is Enki is the magician, the one who is together with Nu and Liu, Ea, Enki, have to do with the creation of the humans. They're so important, in the Babylonian astrology. Does this have to do with the energy of the ancient Enki?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I haven't heard that, but that's interesting. I'll have to investigate a little bit, to be honest.
I believe so. We have to investigate this. Certainly, this would be very interesting.
Yeah. And what Ahriman is all about, he describes, it's about Christ is the organic evolution, because the true evolution of the souls of humans happens through the impulses of the higher hierarchies. These are not aliens like they're trying to present. These are not someone coming doing genetic manipulation. These are actually through the power of the sun. The sun sends impulses, and the sun is like a representative of the higher hierarchies of the Christ and angelic hierarchies that created the human. So it happens organically. It happens naturally. You are in touch with nature, you meditate, you become with each incarnation more conscious, more compassionate, more loving. You start seeing with your third eye, you start levitating, you do it with your own powers. Well, Ahriman wants again to bring fast evolution to humans, but artificial. So we're talking transhumanism here. We're talking merging with machines, because Ahriman is not a creative principle. Only the Christ principle, the Leo energy type of, is the creative one. Ahriman can only copy what is happening, but never never in a very original way, and always in an artificial way. So everything artificial and man-made is very much Ahrimanic in nature. It's not bad. This laptop we're talking through is Ahrimanic. The internet, electricity is Ahrimanic. Fantastic, but it can be used for very good, unless we take it to the extreme, which is extreme materialism. And like transhumanists, they say there's no soul, so we're gonna copy your brain and put it on a laptop, and you're gonna exist in the cloud. They don't believe, they don't take into consideration the existence of a soul. And you cannot create human without a soul. It's not going to be a human, it's going to be a computer. There is no feeling, no soul. Without the astral body, there is no feeling. They cannot recreate the astral body. You can just recreate some kind of...
Whether we mentioned Luciferian, Christian, Ahrimanic, where is the demiurge?
What is the
demiurge, the demiurge?
There is another power even further away that is very dark. It's Soratic. And Rudolf Steiner says like it's beyond our understanding. It's kind of...
The demiurge is beyond our...
That's what that would be, the demiurge, the Soratic energies. That's like the direct opposition of the father.
Exactly. The one who copies actually the...
Basically, both Lucifer and Ahriman and Sorat, all those three principles, are trying to work against the three principles of the Holy Spirit, the Father, and the Christ. But again, they're sanctioned, they're allowed to exist because of the triple principle of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the Creator, as a resistance. So there can be evolution. There can be no evolution without resistance. So actually, Rudolf Steiner said those beings made a sacrifice to stay back in the evolution, to disconnect from the light. So they can, because it's painful to be disconnected from the joy, the love. and to go and to start kind of like torturing humans, basically. So they can create this resistance, this kind of contrast. That's the only way evolution of the soul can grow. And actually, Rudolf Steiner says, the moment we overcome our weaknesses, whether it's our Luciferic nature, which is the strong passions and the strong lower desires, so our Ahrimanic principles of nihilism, separatism, Ahriman on it's like hatred, it's this cold, like the lower vibration of Saturn is Ahriman. And Lucifer is like the lower vibration of Mars. That's how I can, you can best see it. And so if you overcome those two and you balance yourself through the Christ energy in the heart chakra, so you have mind, brain, heart coherence, and you're in this flow, connection, joy, love. This is the energy of the Christ. It's not like you're going to church, oh, Christ, I believe in you. You can go as much as you want. If you don't feel this flow, if you don't feel this inspiration, if you don't feel the truth in your heart, it starts with first, like you feel, ooh, that's critical thinking, but you feel it when something is wrong. When started 2020 to happen, and we will say, didn't you feel in your heart, oh, this is wrong, there's a light
immediately.
That's the Christ principle. It's like you don't need the logical to be explained, you just know it here, something in that area. So that's how little by little Christ is developed. But and Rudolf Steiner said, when all humans develop the Christ principles fully, basically become like Christ was, do the things that Christ could do. It's like some high yogi, materialize, dematerialize, heal, leave the body whenever you want. And when we can all do that, or at least the critical mass of humanity, he said this will actually atone, and those entities that sacrifice the Luciferic, the Ahrimanic to stay behind, they would be released and go back to their higher, to their previous higher exalted state. So we actually save them. They are hurting us, let's say, but they're helping us to evolve in this way. And at the end, after I don't know how many years, thousands, some people already at the Christ consciousness, some maybe 4 or 5 on earth, I don't know. Maybe, and Rudolf Steiner said that in the age of Aquarius, there will be this huge wave that is coming, that a lot of people will start the Christ principle to be born in them. And they say there'll be a huge awakening happening. And it's not, so for some person, it might be one day, that you wake up and you have this consciousness of unity, like maybe Eckhart Tolle, he describes, that's for me is the Christ. Like you see, everything makes sense, everything is perfect, everything is beautiful. But for others, it will be, it will take us a few thousand years more. But he said from already the end of the year 2000, the start of the year 2000, he said there will be so many souls that are ready to receive the Christ principle and to feel it. And he said at one point, when there are 25% of humans that have done that, it will be just, this will be by the end of the age of Aquarius. He sees it that there will be around 25%. And he says, then it's like a wave, for the others.
But this will take 2000 something years. The end of age of Aquarius.
It's not overnight. Yeah, it's not overnight, but a lot of people, and just like Eckhart Tolle, he woke up in one day, but how many lives has he prepared for that, and how many, and Rudolf Steiner says, you don't need to meditate. You don't need to do some special yogic exercises, breathing. He says these were given, especially the Eastern ones, they were given before the coming of Christ. The human body was different. The human consciousness was different. It was the descending evolution. Humans could truly, through meditation and special breathing exercises.
But WADA, this has nothing to do with religion. Let's say to people who are
Yes. No.
This absolutely is indifferent.
No. Yeah. But exactly. He said, yes, you can do that. He said you can do that, but the way that the Christ principle will be born for you, and we're not talking Christianity here.
No, exactly.
Born in Christian, or you start talking in tongues, you shake, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's this kind of feeling. But he said you might not know, never heard of Christ, but you're a good person. You help people, you're compassionate, you build virtues. If you're weak, you build in yourself strength. If you consciously try to stop lying. You consciously try to always tell the truth, to help. And he says, when you have enough of those virtues in you, the astral body is pure enough, clean enough, it's kind of, you start seeing. So you don't have to do, some people, he says, they can penetrate some people, the realm, the invisible realms, if without moral purification, without becoming morally good people, with specific exercises, those breathing exercises, those meditations. But he says they usually are not prepared. It's very dangerous, and they usually access the lower astrals. They're not allowed into the higher worlds. So they interact with misleading entities, and but the person who is prepared, they're usually very moral. They are not looking specifically to gain such skills. It just happens spontaneously. They start developing them, and you recognize them, but they're absolute non-judgmental kindness, non-materialistic attitude, And I believe most people are going in that direction, but he said there'll be a bunch of people that will choose consciously the opposite. And he said by the end of the age of Aquarius, within the next 2,000-3,000 years, he said those people that consciously, there will be some smaller portion, but they will, let's say, splitting. They will start looking differently than humans. Incarnation, the body will become too dense. Their lower passions will be too strong, and they would consciously be going after them, indulging in them, and trying to build the higher virtues and principles. They would live separately, almost like separated from the rest of the humanity that is evolving naturally, that with the natural human evolution. And they would be kind of merging semi with machines, and they would say they'll start even looking animalistic, because their soul will imprint, because the physical body will be so dense, and their soul, it will imprint on the physical appearance. And he said they're not going to live together with other humans. The evolved humans will keep trying to help them till the last moment, but there will be a moment when they can no longer do anything. Those ones will not be able for them to be born anymore, because they will be too material, too heavy substance, and they won't be able to keep coming on the earth in new bodies. There won't be new bodies for them. Their fertility will die out. It's not going to be overnight again, over a few thousand years. And he said, unfortunately, those souls that consciously chose to pursue vices and hurting others and so on, they'll have to wait another evolutionary wave that might not come for thousands of years again, maybe to the age of Aquarius, Leo, or whatever. And they're not doomed. They're not going to be melted in the fires of hell. They're kind of in limbo, and it's kind of, till the next evolutionary conditions on Earth for them to come, maybe with the souls of animals that are ready to be humans, something like that. I remember Rudolf Steiner made. But it's his cosmology is so comprehensive, and it's so important for people to have a cosmology to understand, because otherwise it's so easy to get misled. I absolutely love Gigi Yang on YouTube. She describes the cosmology of Rudolf Steiner very easy for people to understand, because it's 27,000 lectures, hundreds of books that Rudolf Steiner has done, and it's impossible to summarize all of this, but she does it beautifully. And the biggest danger now is the narrative of aliens. We're created by aliens. This is one of the, let's say, Ahrimanic traps to make people feel like slave race, that there's a result of a genetic experiment. So if we were created through genetic experiments, why not advance through genetic experiments? But actually, it was not. We were created by the hierarchies. There were genetic interventions during the evolution of humanity from the darker aliens, which are actually darker entities. They're interdimensional. They're not necessarily
They
just...
did it now too, Ada. They did it now too. Let's
Yes,
not
they
mention what
do.
they did, but we know they did it in year 2000, 2001.
Yes, they did.
2021.
They did it in Atlantis as well. That's why Atlantis was destroyed. They started messing up with the genetics. But every time they do this, those entities, whatever you want to call, those regressive entities, every time, or they call them aliens now, whatever monstrosities is left, or let's say not monstrosity, they die out. They become like the redundant line. Only the natural organic line continues to evolve after that. Just like we find a lot of manipulations that happen. There were humans with animal parts, just like in the mythology, but those died out with Atlantis, and they're only the natural organic Christ hierarchy inspired internal evolution of the consciousness, humanity, only it survives with the evolving earth, while the others start, like, look at the Greys, if you heard of, you know, they
Yes.
genetically manipulated themselves. What do they look like? Like slime, like insects. It's like, does this look like divine creation to you? Do you want to go in that direction? But I believe enough people are awake, and Rudolf Steiner never says what exactly will happen. He says what will happen, but he says not. He doesn't say what the result will be, the outcome. He says depends how aware humans are, whether we'll be put in locked on prison on earth and become more and more materialistic, and the souls get locked in, and you know, or whether we'll evolve to this natural, you know, Christ principle. He says, with the coming of Ahriman, we'll see if there is enough human beings that recognize that and that they don't fall for the deception. And he says, actually, Ahriman will bring with him a type of clairvoyance as well, which is, I don't know if that will be achieved through technology, but he says you'll be like, with your eyes, you'll be able to see other realities. He describes it like that, and tap into and have visions. Maybe this is some kind of neural links, or maybe some kind of, and he says, but it will be fake. It will not be the true higher worlds. And people will be able to get it with the click of the fingers.
So people pay attention not to fall in this trap, literally.
Yes, so if you're promised like, oh, you can see, I don't know, it's probably something in some waves that go into your brain, and you start having visions. It says everyone will be having different visions. None of them will be the truth, though. And I don't know if it will be done through technology, through wavelengths, but it's not going to be organic. It's not going to be natural. And it's going to be, you know, instantaneous, while achieving the natural access to the higher worlds and the truth, the ultimate truth. And the higher astral rather than the royal lower, it's hard work, working on your virtues, you know, getting better and better as a human being every day. So there'll be it will be offered to humans in a very easy way. And people that slip in, you know, but it doesn't mean that whoever has had this treatment in 2020, 21, that they're lost souls or whatever.
No.
It doesn't mean that, but he says they'll have all types of ways to try to make the soul more and more materialistic, and the person be disconnected from the soul. He said they would invent inoculations for that, to separate the soul from the body a bit, so you feel like dead inside, you know, you don't feel your higher self. They would find medicines, they would find technologies. But it's not going to happen with one time, you know. Soul it's life. It always finds way for life to come back from the dead and matter.
Looks like a war against human soul, because it's so mighty, so powerful.
It's exactly against the soul.
Exactly the human soul. Yes. Whether he has a little bit more specific predictions related to agriculture, how they will kill the agriculture. They were very interesting. And now actually he gives also some remedies. I know he has books for this what was the name of biodynamic agriculture. Maybe we can say 2-3 words. And I also want to tell you, maybe we should make research on how eventually this astrologically this arrival of Ahriman will look like, so that we can make second part of this talk if you want, and we can say to people which would be the astrological aspects, which will be approximately the timing and the cycle, so that people really watch out for. And
I think they said there will be signs in the sky. They always, just like for Christ, there was the star that, you know, they followed, the three magi. And then people say, oh, astrology and Christianity doesn't match. No. I have even friends that are very religious, and they tell me, you're losing your soul. And I said, who went to give the first gifts to Christ? What were they following? Were they following? Were they following a star? Were they magi, the three astrologers? Anyway, but so the Krasi, there was a symbol sign. Remember, Saturn and Jupiter joined together almost like a star.
But I look at this as a very good sign.
It's a very good sign, but also they joined in the horns of the goat.
Yes.
What is it? The goat with a star in the middle? I think that was
Altair, yes.
No. It's the goat, you know, the celestial goat, which is the symbol of Baphomet. Yeah. And there was a star in the middle of his forehead. So for me, that was and that's a 20-year cycle. For me, that was the start of the plan. Actually, Rudolf being Saduno, who is also Bin Saduno and Rudolf Steiner, they worked together even though they never met. They kept sending students to each other. These are the two teachers of the new age of Aquarius. Rudolf Steiner was for the mind, Bin Saduno was for the heart, for the Christ principle. And Rudolf Steiner said the true master and teacher is in Bulgaria. Back then, 100 years, he would send some of his students there. And Bin Saduno said that in all his prophecies always come true. He said that Satan, or whatever you want to call him, or Ahriman, will work the strongest from the year 2000 to the year 2045. So this 45-year period, and it started with 9/11. He said they'll start like a global tyranny around the world. And it will spread its, it will be a tyranny that if you speak against it, you'll be canceled, you'll be, what is happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
From 2020, and there is about 20-year period. And he says after that, he says it ends and comes the kingdom of, whatever, the big, huge move forward for humanity, but it will be helped through nature. And he says, and Bin Saduno says, don't fight with evil. Yes, point out the evil. Don't fight with it, with its means, because evil will destroy itself and nature will destroy it. He says God will take care and God works through nature. So something will be happening in the next 20 years, nature-wise, that I think they're also trying to prevent in hectic way. That will be the end of this kind of the rule of the Prince of Darkness on earth. I'm very hopeful for that. That's why I wanted to finish with this. And I believe there will be a sign in the sky, like you say, and it might not be something very normal astrological. It might be something like a huge comet or whatever that will show the exact, let's say, I believe this Ahriman is the person, the human body that will carry Ahriman has been born already. There is something about the year 1998 because it's 3 times 666. And Rudolf Steiner always said that first the year 666, when it came a first Ahrimanic impulse. And that's around the time of the first, in the first very scientific great developments in the Muslim countries when it started. And then the next 666, that's when Muhammad came. Then the next double 666 was 1,200 something, That's when the great scientific impulse happened through the Muslim culture, sorry. And he said, but it was slowed down because humans were not ready for this powerful scientific impulse or Ahrimanic. They were not prepared. They were not going to recognize that. And he said the third time it happens, and that was 1998, was when the biggest impulse of Ahriman will come. And there is some anthroposophists and astrologers are saying that that's very likely the time when the body, the human being who would carry that Ahrimanic spirit was born, possibly in a very high level European kind of royalty of some sort, or some people even started writing to me and saying this might be the person, some, like high level royalty. We don't know yet.
No.
Yes, but if that's so, then this person takes over within the next 20 years and has power and is very charismatic. And Rudolf Steiner said that he prevents some kind of a world war. He comes like a savior. And he comes like with a solution for that. And everyone loves him. He says many people will also be deluded. Many people that are, looking for spiritual truth, they would say, wow, this is an incredible person. But he gives us a lot of sign to recognize how that this is the, and he says its reign is not going to be long. It's going to be a kind of mirroring what the Christ experiences, 3.5 years, something like that. But he will have, in order for this being to be on earth, there needs to be a world government, because he needs to have access all over, because he'll be truly this time the king of the world, or will have influence over. So we have something like either organization that has control over all nations, like UN or HWO, or some kind of a world government in place before this thing comes. And again, he says it doesn't have to be destructive. It doesn't have to be bad. If people recognize it, within it dissolves, and just humans continue on their path after that, more enriched, more aware of these different spiritual impulses. And so it's up to us to recognize it. That's why maybe we're doing such videos for
And
people.
we have no excuse to fall into this trap. We just need to be very careful, very alert, very awake, very spiritual, and through the Christ center, to live through the Christ center. Like Master Beast Duno is having one saying, which I love. He says, I want to live in the new life, the new life of love. Very simple. I mean, it's not a cliche. This is what it means.
Pro-life, yeah. But you see the evil, we saw the means that it uses. It's threats, you lose your jobs, you can't travel, you can't eat, you know, it's threat. And so many people, if they can't work, they can't eat. And it will use, you'll never be forced, like, you know, to do those things fully, but you'll be on the brink. So we have
Because
to be very
they cannot violate the free
will.
choice.
And they even saying, but we never told you that you should go and take it. We never told you. We
No.
said we recommend, and it's like ghosting you, you know, gaslighting you, gaslighting. So these are the means. We saw how they work. We have to be prepared, and they can never push too long. You know, it's in spurts and in spurts, because the brightness and the light in humans is too bright. There are too many light workers. So many people sacrificed their life for that. How many doctors were killed? How many presidents that went against it were killed?
And they're gone. They're gone.
They're gone. But you see, the spirit of the Christ of truth is so powerful in many people to sacrifice themselves for the others. So I hope we're not part of them. But if it comes to that, I'll do it, you know.
Absolutely. No, Wada, this was great and very, very, I believe, useful for people really to be this time not to trust anything but your own heart intuition, which comes directly from Christ. Beautiful, Wada. Thank you so much.
So much, Krasi. Thank you that you brought such an amazing topic. Hopefully more people would get interested to read Steiner, to read Master Bean Saduno. They explain Christianity, the esoteric side of Christianity. They don't take you away from Christ. They're not devil. They will make you love and understand the true esoteric science behind this. It's a big mystery that we're still not gonna understand until we experience it directly through some kind of initiation. But at least to understand it intellectually, it starts working on your finer body. So it starts opening certain, adjusting certain things in you. So yeah, hopefully that will direct people. Thank you, Krasi.
Thank you, Wada, so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.